Our new Vanna begins with Haruto, who became shut-in for 5 years after being bullied at school. Then suddenly, a flash of light occurs and a goddess welcomes him to heaven. She carefully chooses Haruto to be reincarnated since he died in his room. The goddess is about to reincarnate him into a magical world, so she blesses him with a set of overpowered skills. Thinking back on his boring life, Haruto wants to enjoy this new one, and thus he is reincarnated into a royal family as the first prince named Rihard. His father is King Jilk, and his mother is a hero named Galt, who defeated the Demon King. However, when the court mage performs a magic aptitude test, they see that Haruto is only at level 2 with just barrier magic and no elemental magic. This would be considered a disgrace to the king and the hero if the public found out that their newborn is weak. So his own father and mother order their servant to silently dispose of Haruto, considering him trash. The goddess observes the situation and becomes worried. She tells her friend that she granted Haruto a level of 1002, but this world's level measuring device won't go above 2 digits. Moreover, she forgot to give him an elemental power. As a result, Haruto is thrown away into the woods. This goddess is a bit of a knucklehead. Anyway, in the woods, Haruto recalls the barrier magic that the mage mentioned, so he imagines it and the barrier appears. He can also freely change its format at will, so he uses the barrier on himself to fly up into the sky. Haruto is pleased with his powers because they don't even burn a little bit of his mana. Then Haruto lifts the whole area out from the ground and the wolf realizes she's totally screwed. She surrenders to him, but Haruto thinks his ears are ringing. Haruto still proceeds, and then the lady wolf speaks, surrendering a second time. Haruto realizes it was for speaking. Haruto introduces himself and explains to her that his father, the king, threw him away for having weak mana. But the wolf lady named Flaw can see that Haruto has an enormous amount of mana that easily surpasses human limits. Seeing this, Flaw mistakes Haruto for being a demon king, and Haruto goes along with her imagination, saying that he was a demon king in his previous life. Flaw then waits for a punishment of death for trying to kill Haruto, but Haruto shows generosity and spares her life. Haruto uses his barrier to create a telepathic link between them to transfer their thoughts. Then, a man arrives claiming to be Haruto's relative. He came to save him and take him in, but Fla claims that Haruto is her master, so he belongs to her. His name is Gold, and he offers some milk for Haruto, but Fla refuses. Gold tells her that he lost his first child during childbirth, and Haruto was abandoned because he was weak. He wanted to save him because it doesn't matter to him if he's weak. He believes every child should have a chance to live. Hearing his backstory, Fla bursts into tears out of sympathy. Seeing her reaction, Gold offers to take her in as well. They come to a deal, and Fla agrees to his offer. Gold then breaks Haruto's basket to fool everyone into thinking Haruto died. With that, Haruto is adopted by Gold and his wife, Natalia. 9 years go by, and in that time, Haruto gets a little sister named Charlotte. However, it's clear she doesn't like him. Instead, she loves Fla and wants to play with her. But Fla disagrees as she needs to help Haruto. Haruto asks Fla to go with Charlotte, and she agrees. Natalia tells Haruto that Charlotte is perhaps shy around him because he's a boy but is carefree when she's with Fla. Natalia wants Haruto to be social since he's the heir of their family and suggests he do something special for Charlotte to bond with her. However, Haruto is planning to leave home once he comes of age. He even made a clone with a barrier, but doesn't move or talk. If he were to go off on his own, naturally Fla would follow him, and if that happens, Charlotte would hate him for her entire life. Then Gold calls Haruto out to the yard because he wants to train him in swordsmanship since Haruto has the lowest amount of mana. Haruto knows he won't get away from it. Also, Gold is a seasoned warrior at the top-notch level, nicknamed Earth-Shattering Warhammer, so Haruto uses a barrier on himself to make up for his lack of physical strength. When Haruto tries to strike, Gold sees the powerful attack and dodges it in time because it's powerful enough to put a dent in the ground. Gold is surprised to his core. However, Haruto still thinks that he's at level 2 because when he tested himself, his level showed as 002. But even with that level, he can do anything he wants with his barrier magic, even if he lacks elemental power. Later that night, Natalia notices that Gold is lost in thought. Gold tells Natalia that he trained Haruto today, but after seeing his powers, he thinks Haruto might be a reincarnation of a demon. There are records that one of the royal family members got involved with a demon, so it could be possible that Haruto has demon traits in him. Since the demon wolf, Fla, considers him her master, it could be possible. However, both Gold and Natalia don't care and want Haruto to live a normal and happy life. While everything seemed to be going fine, one day Haruto heard a commotion outside. He saw through his surveillance barrier that his father's army had been seriously wounded by attackers. Haruto rushed to his father, and Gold told him it was the work of thieves who had attacked them out of the blue. Flea blamed Gold for his incompetence, which put Haruto in a bad mood. He healed almost all the wounded soldiers with his barrier magic, but didn't tell anyone he had done so. Later that night, when Haruto woke up to answer nature's call, he saw Flea standing outside his room. Haruto realized she was still upset because he had gotten angry at her earlier. She really was cute. Haruto apologized for losing his temper, and then he and Flea went outside. He used his surveillance barrier to locate the thieves who had attacked Gold and his army. Fortunately, one of his cameras spotted them, so Haruto quickly used his barrier to fly himself and fully to their location. Incidentally, Charlotte saw them flying away. At the thieves' hideout, some soldiers were involved with them. Unfortunately for them, Haruto arrived, taking down their guards. He quickly froze the thieves with his barrier magic, and when one of them tried to speak nonsense, Haruto made an example out of him. After tying them up, the captain of their group told Haruto that they were soldiers of the neighboring empire infiltrating to cause chaos. They even had a mole working for them, helping them pass the borders of the empire. That was all they knew. Haruto realized that someone more influential than Gold must be behind this plan. The attackers begged for their lives, but Haruto ordered Flea to burn down the entire fort, as he couldn't spare those who had attacked his father. Flea burned it all down. Now the matter at hand was to find out why the Imperial soldiers were involved in attacking his father. For the time being, Haruto sent an anonymous letter to inform Gold about this. He mentioned the mole at the border and how he had taken down the thieves and their fort. Somehow, Gold also suspected the involvement of the Imperial family. Meanwhile, Charlotte wanted to know who had helped them. Gold suspected Flea, given she was a demon and a powerful one at that, but Charlotte remembered seeing Haruto and Flea flying. She asked Flea, thinking there were two Harutos. When she saw Haruto flying, she ran to his room but found him sleeping like a log. However, she couldn't sense Haruto's overwhelming mana while he was asleep. Flea was impressed that Charlotte could sense Haruto's mana, and as few people could do that. Charlotte wanted to know more about Haruto's powers, but Flea kept silent. Charlotte later told Haruto about this, and he started setting up more surveillance barriers to keep an eye on her movements as he wanted to hide his powers from her. For several days, Charlotte kept following Haruto whenever he tried to sneak out, spying on him. Finally, on the 7th day, the situation reversed and Haruto was the one keeping an eye on her. Natalia and Charlotte were about to go on a trip. Haruto suddenly received an alert from the barrier he had placed around Charlotte, indicating they were in danger. Their carriage was attacked by Imperial soldiers. Natalia fled to save Charlotte, blocking their magic attacks, but one spell hit her leg. Haruto communicated with Charlotte through a barrier spell, guiding her to safety. Natalia noticed someone was guiding Charlotte but didn't question it. However, their escape led them to a high cliff. Even so, Natalia jumped off and landed roughly. Charlotte pointed out a cave where they could hide. Natalia took her inside and saw it was filled with luminous plants. She told Charlotte she would go out to find the hero who had helped them reach the cave and asked Charlotte to stay hidden. Just as Natalia left, the cave was covered by an illusion spell and the attackers found her. Natalia considered ending her life rather than being captured, but her dagger was shattered into pieces and an electric shock knocked her out. Haruto arrived just in time, furious that these men had harmed his mother. With a single command, he sent them flying away. He brought Natalia into the cave, asking Charlotte to look after her. She stopped him and asked if he was the hero who saved people and punished sinners. Haruto hesitated, as it was such a childish question, but eventually, he went along with it and accepted the role of a hero, asking her to keep it a secret. After cleaning up the mess, Haruto returned home and Gold got the news of their situation. He wanted to thank the mysterious hero who had saved them. Gold then asked Haruto about the incident, but Haruto remained calm, not worried about the Imperial soldiers, which Gold believed. Natalia and Charlotte then returned home and Gold was relieved to see them safe. For the first time, Charlotte showed affection for her older brother, shocking both of her parents. She kept it a secret that Haruto was the one who had helped them. As episode 3 starts, Charlotte now goes to Haruto every day to play with him, and Haruto doesn't dislike it, especially seeing her cuteness. However, Charlotte gets drawn to his surveillance screen and thinks it's ancient magic. Haruto explains that it's hard to learn wasp magic without proper information. Charlotte then takes Haruto to the castle's library, and he realizes for the first time that their castle has a library. Charlotte picks up a few books on ancient magic like a real librarian because their mother, Natalia, and Flea always read these books to her. Since she can't read herself, she sits on Haruto's lap to read the book, but Haruto tells her to sit beside him on a chair. However, Charlotte is used to sitting on Flea's or her mother's lap while reading. Haruto begins reading the book and discovers that gods can travel between worlds, similar to the anime he used to watch in Japan. Hearing this, Charlotte becomes excited and wants to know more about anime. Haruto tries to explain that it would be difficult for her to understand, but she insists. So Haruto simply explains that anime is like moving pictures. Seeing Haruto's enthusiasm, Charlotte wants to see anime as well. Haruto is swayed by her cuteness, and after 2 weeks, he somehow brings Google into this world. Since there were many genres, Charlotte gets a bit confused, but she eventually chooses a magical girl anime and becomes instantly captivated by it. However, the anime is in Japanese, so she wants to learn the language even though she's still a child. Haruto goes along with it and teaches her the basics. She turns out to be a genius, mastering the language in just 2 hours, and soon she starts searching for word meanings on Google herself. 2 weeks pass in an instant, and Charlotte's love for anime grows fully, especially for zombie and Power Rangers type anime. Haruto doesn't want to let her watch anime all day long, but she looks so cute while enjoying her shows. However, it could affect her health, so as a big brother, Haruto decides to be a bit strict. Since she's becoming an otaku, Charlotte wants to start another season of anime, but Haruto stops her, setting a ground rule of watching anime for only 3 hours a day, as it's not healthy for a kid to watch that much TV. This comes as a real shock to her. At dinner, Charlotte is dozing off, so Gold asks Haruto what she's been up to as she spends all her time with him. Charlotte quickly gets up to tell them that she's studying ancient magic with Haruto. After dinner, Charlotte continues to follow Haruto with her puppy dog eyes for more anime, but Haruto is firm about the 3-hour rule. She can tags along in the bath because she has nothing else to do besides watch anime. Typical otaku behavior. Charlotte notices Haruto's royal birthmark, but she has no idea it's a royal mark and instead thinks it's a hero's mark. Finally, when it's night, Charlotte is still sticking to him while their mother, Natalia, enjoys herself and supports Charlotte from afar. Then the day comes when Gold leaves to wipe out the remaining thieves, and Charlotte starts worrying about him. She wants Haruto to do something since he's the hero of justice. Haruto, once again swayed by her puppy dog eyes, gives in. She wants Haruto to transform like a hero, so he fulfills her wish by choosing the look of La Luche Vi Britannia. Charlotte wants to tag along as well, but Haruto refuses because it's dangerous. Seeing her sad, Haruto gives her a live surveillance feed, which brightens her up. Haruto then finds those thieves and traps them with his barrier. It's way too easy. He confronts them to give Charlotte a live anime experience. After defeating them, Gold arrives and isn't hostile toward Haruto, asking for his name. Haruto, unable to come up with anything, names himself Still Pending. Honestly, it's the crappiest name, and even Haruto knows it. Gold wants to know his motive, so Haruto has to go along with cheesy hero dialogue to make her happy. This cheesy hero, Still Pending, becomes an embarrassing reality with many heroic deeds. After a few days, Haruto successfully creates a working clone of himself, but it becomes a carbon copy. Charlotte, who is right there, becomes confused seeing 2 brothers. Then Haruto and Charlotte are called out because the crown prince and princess are visiting them. Haruto knows they are his blood siblings, but when Gold greets Princess Moran first, Prince Lise thinks Gold disrespected him for being second. Lise is a cocky brat, but Gold apologizes. Moran tells him to mind his manners, but the brat starts insulting his own older sister because he sees Moran as a tool for political relationships. Haruto can't believe what his royal mother and father have been teaching him. Prince Lise continues his tirade and looks down on Haruto because he's Gold's adopted son and a weak level 2. He gets cocky and challenges Haruto to a duel in the yard to teach him a lesson. Haruto notices that Lise is at level 9 and could max out at 40. Lise takes the first swing, but Haruto dodges it quickly. Lise then orders Haruto not to dodge because he wants to teach him manners, so Haruto complies. But no matter how much Lise attacks, Haruto's barrier protects him. Lise becomes frustrated and demands Haruto fight back. This is what Haruto wanted to hear. He gets back in the game and beats up Lise hardcore. Moran intervenes, telling Lise to stop because he's making a fool of himself. His ego hurt, Lise uses a fireball to harm Haruto, but Haruto cancels his spell. Once again, Moran tells Lise to stop, but he thinks Haruto is cheating because it takes an intermediate mage to cast Magic Absorb. Hearing this, Haruto decides to return every fireball he absorbed, and Lise has no choice but to admit defeat. As a big sister, Moran apologizes to Haruto, but he doesn't mind and takes his leave. Haruto wonders if his royal mother and father are still keeping tabs on him, but then again, they did throw him away for being weak. Haruto realizes anything is possible. And with that, our episode 3 comes to an end. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to receive the latest updates on my newly uploaded videos. Shio finds himself being attacked by a group of jealous hooligans, all furious and accusing him of stealing their boss's girlfriend, Shenyao. Just as they're about to permanently alter his face, he makes a desperate leap into the water, ready to meet his end. However, instead of drowning, he stumbles upon a mysterious object, a super Q lying at the bottom of the water. Upon touching the Q, a strange energy surges through his body, and he is granted an unbelievable cheat system that makes him overpowered in real life. Ever since Xiao was a young boy, he had always been known as the cool kid, admired by his peers. But everything changed one fateful day when he shed tears in front of everyone. His vulnerability became a source of ridicule, and he was mocked by his classmates. Shen Yao, who had always been his close friend, saw him sitting alone, sulking outside the school after the incident. She approached him, offering comforting words of encouragement and helping to patch up his wounds, showing kindness when he needed it the most. Days passed, and during one of their study sessions, Shen Yao received a mysterious phone call from an unknown number. The caller urgently warned her to escape as dangerous individuals were coming to collect her. As Shen Yao tried to make sense of the cryptic message, she suddenly found herself in a different realm, a strange and ominous version of the library surrounded by men in suits, and all the other students had seemingly vanished. The mysterious caller guided her to a hidden room, where she was rescued by a man shrouded in secrecy. Just as he managed to save her, the man was confronted by a group of relentless attackers armed with energy guns. Despite the odds, the man's incredible agility and strength allowed him to evade the attacks and defeat his enemies one by one. The fight escalated to a dramatic aerial battle, with the man fending off his pursuers, including a powerful opponent who levitated an entire building and hurled it at him. The mysterious savior, however, shattered the building into cubes and used them to strike back, eventually sending the final enemy into a different dimension. As the battle ended, the protective watch on Shen Yao, which had kept her safe, suddenly transported her back to the library, where she was asleep, unaware of what had transpired. When she woke up, she found Xiao beside her, and they continued their studying, with no memory of the bizarre events. Years later, Xiao finds himself once again in a dangerous situation. He's being beaten up by Sunjun, the leader of the North City gang, and his underlings. The cause of this attack? Shen Yao's confession of her feelings to Xiao in front of their friends. Sunjun, a possessive admirer of Shen Yao, had taken it upon himself to teach Xiao a lesson. As the hooligans beat Xiao near a water bridge, Sunjun FaceTimes Shen Yao, using Xiao's phone to show her the consequences of being involved with someone else. Although Shen Yao protests, Sunjun is determined to punish Xiao. Just as Xiao refuses to back down, he headbutts one of the gang members and leaps into the water to escape his attackers. Sunjun's men are furious and frantic, shouting for Xiao to stop playing around and emerge from the water. But Xiao, sinking deeper and deeper, is consumed by despair, feeling like a useless failure for not being able to protect the girl he loves. Just as he contemplates his impending demise, he notices something shining at the bottom of the water. Curious, he investigates and discovers a glowing cube. Upon touching it, the cube enters his body and begins to burn with intense energy, causing him excruciating pain. He soon finds himself within a cosmic cube, unsure of what's happening. A voice from within the cube informs him that he now possesses the ability to teleport within a 15-meter radius of the cube's location. Before Xiao can fully comprehend the situation, he is teleported into the air above the water, panicking and thinking he's about to fall to his death. Instead, he discovers that he's floating, unable to make sense of the strange turn of events. Below, the hooligans continue searching for him, while Sunjun, sensing a strange presence, looks up only to find nothing. Xiao, however, has already been teleported to a classroom. Confused and disoriented, he is bombarded with questions by the voice within the cube, which is now communicating directly with him, where he's not spotted by a guard. The cube transports him back to his room. As he cleans himself up, Xiao receives a phone call from Shen Yao, who had been worried since she saw him fall into the water. She had feared he was dead, but is relieved to hear he's safe. Shen Yao suggests they report the incident to the authorities, as Sunjun and his gang had gone too far this time. However, Xiao tells her to relax and not worry. He insists that she should get some sleep since it's late, cutting the call without revealing the truth of what had really happened. He knows that no one would believe his story even if he tried to explain it. After the call, Xiao is left alone and the cube begins to speak to him again. It reveals that he is now the chosen user of a powerful artifact known as the Heraldric Cube, the ultimate universe system. Despite its small physical form, the cube contains vast, unimaginable power. Xiao demands answers, questioning why the cube is helping him, to which the cube responds that it is here to assist him in achieving his ultimate goal, becoming the king of the world. However, Xiao has no interest in ruling the world. His only desire is to gain enough power to protect Shen Yao from the dangers that lurk around her. The cube informs Xiao that he can increase his strength and abilities by absorbing special energy gems. While regular stones can aid in leveling up, they provide only minimal increments in power. To gain true strength, Xiao must obtain special gems. The cube scans his surroundings and points out various objects, including his mother's diamond ring and his father's charismatite stone, as examples of things that hold no energy force. But when the cube detects an energy gem in the garden below, Shio prepares to dig it up. He uses his microwave radiation ability to locate the glowing gem and uncovers it from the soil. Though unimpressed by its modest appearance, Shio follows the cube's instructions and feeds the gem into the system. The gem pulsates with energy, increasing Shio's strength by 2 points and his endurance by 1 point. These improvements translate into real-life combat abilities, making Shio noticeably stronger. The next morning, Shio wakes up feeling exhausted from the previous night's activities. He rushes to school, only to be scolded by Shen Yao for hanging up on her during their phone call. As they enter class, their friends tease Shen Yao about confessing her feelings for Shio. However, the laughter is cut short when Sunjin and his gang storm the classroom, searching for the so-called Rizzler. The gang's thugs start roughing up one of the students, demanding to know Shio's whereabouts. Xiao hides behind a book in the classroom, trying to stay out of sight from Sunjin and his gang. However, Sunjin seems to have spotted him, and with an unsettling smirk, he starts walking toward him. Shio, now anxious about the impending confrontation, asks the cube if the power-up he received yesterday is enough to handle the gang. The cube responds, informing him that his combat power level is 22, whereas the average combat level of the gang is only 5, which puts him at a significant advantage. As Sunjin approaches, Shen Yao stands up and tells him to leave him alone, her voice firm and determined. Sunjin, ever deluded by his own sense of superiority, responds by mocking Shio, accusing him of using Shen Yao as a shield and acting like a coward. Shen Yao, however, won't back down. She insists that Shio is a real man and demands Sunjin leave immediately. Shio, encouraged by her support, rises to his feet and tells her to leave everything to him. Sunjin, visibly irritated by Shio's boldness, grabs Shio by the shirt, attempting to intimidate him. But Shio stands his ground, refusing to show fear. He tightens his grip on Sunjin's hand, surprising the gang leader with his newfound strength. Sunjin can hardly believe how much stronger Shio has become in such a short time. Just as things start to escalate, the teacher walks into the classroom, putting an end to the confrontation. But before leaving, Sunjin leans in close and whispers to Shio that he should meet him at the basketball court at 5:00 p.m. If Shio doesn't want Shen Yao to be dragged into this mess, he better show up. Later that afternoon, Shio enters the indoor basketball court to find Sunjin and his 13 gang members waiting for him. Sunjin orders his men to close the doors, ensuring that Shio won't escape this time. Shio assesses the situation, and the Q immediately provides him with a probability check. It informs him that he has only a 20% chance of winning if they all attack him together. Despite the odds, Shio remains resolute, determined to stand his ground. Sunjin confronts Shio, demanding that he promise to stop seeing Shen Yao. He also wants Shio to kneel and apologize for his actions. In response, Shio mocks Sunjin, calling him out for not being a good role model to his underlings. He questions why Sunjin won't fight him one-on-one, accusing him of being too afraid to face him directly. Shio pushes Sunjin's buttons further by revealing that he went easy on him earlier that morning in front of the class. This sends Sunjin into a fury, but before he can lash out, one of the gang members steps forward. This new opponent, a burly, bald man, offers to fight Shio instead, claiming that Shio isn't worth Sunjin's time. The bald man is revealed to be the strongest fighter in the gang. The cube, however, reassures Shio that he has nothing to fear, as the bald man's combat level is only 10, far below Shio's current abilities. The bald man begins the fight by throwing a basketball at Shio, but he easily dodges it. The gang member follows up with a barrage of punches, but Shio evades each one with swift movements. Meanwhile, Shen Yao grows increasingly concerned as she tries calling Shio, but he doesn't answer. Worried, she contacts the school authorities to alert them of the situation. Back at the court, the fight between Shio and the bald man continues, but it's clear that the bald man is growing frustrated. He's unable to land a single hit on Shio, and his energy is quickly depleting. In a fit of rage, the bald man charges at Shio, but Shio effortlessly catches his foot, landing a solid punch to the man's face. With a single move, Shio throws the bald man aside like he's nothing, knocking him out cold. The gang stands in shock, unable to comprehend how their strongest fighter was so easily defeated. Panic spreads among them as they realize Shio's true strength. Undeterred, Shio calls out to the gang, daring anyone else to come forward and face him. Sunjin, however, laughs mockingly. He's no longer concerned with one-on-one fights. His plan is to have all of his men attack Shio at once. The cube analyzes the situation again and informs Shio that his chances of winning have now increased to 30%, following the defeat of the bald man. The gang begins to chant, preparing to overwhelm Xiao with their numbers. But Xiao was undeterred. With the help of the system, he is able to keep up with their moves, dodging and countering their attacks. He takes down 2 more of the gang members in quick succession. The gang, seeing their numbers starting to dwindle, resorts to dirty tactics. One of them tries to sneak up on Xiao, but Xiao, quick to adapt, kicks him in the groin, sending the man flying into the air. Sunjin, now growing desperate, urges his remaining men to attack with everything they've got. Xiao, however, uses the entire court to his advantage, maneuvering around the gang and getting the upper hand. Despite their overwhelming numbers, the gang manages to land a few hits on him. Xiao, now visibly annoyed by their cowardly tactics, decides to take matters into his own hands. With an impressive display of strength, he grabs one of the gang members by the legs, spins him around like a ragdoll, and throws him directly into Sunjin's face. As Sunjin staggers, recovering from the blow, he looks around and realizes with dread that Xiao has already defeated every last one of his men. Fear fills his eyes as he realizes that he has messed with the wrong person. Xiao, with a cold and confident stride, begins walking toward him, the tension in the air palpable. Sunjin's bravado fades, replaced by sheer terror as he understands that Xiao is no longer someone he can intimidate or control. The system alerts Xiao that he is completely exhausted and can no longer continue fighting. Sunjin, unaware of Xiao's condition, begins to scream in terror, tears and snot streaming down his face as he begs Xiao not to approach him. Just as Xiao prepares to deal with him, the lights in the gym suddenly flicker on and a rival gang from the South City enters. The new gang members start mocking Sunjin and his North City crew for being weak and losing to a single rookie. The leader of the South City gang, named Juan, steps forward and orders Sunjin to relinquish his position as the boss of the city, claiming that Sunjin is too weak to hold that role. Xiao, tired of the endless chatter, just wants to give Sunjin a final warning, telling him to never interfere with Shen Yao again. But Juan takes offense at Xiao's interruption and sees this as the perfect opportunity to show Sunjin how a true leader handles things and how to properly deliver a beatdown. The system, concerned for Xiao's well-being, advises him to flee as he's not in any condition to fight. However, Juan and his gang don't give Xiao a chance to escape. Since the cube is in Xiao's house, not directly with him, he cannot teleport out of the gym's radius. The system then directs him toward the edge of the teleportation zone, guiding him just in time for Xiao to teleport out of the gym, avoiding capture by the South City gang. Now that Xiao knows the boundaries of his teleportation range, he decides to use his abilities strategically. He turns off the lights and begins to ambush Juan and his gang, using the darkness to his advantage. When the lights come back on, Juan's gang members are all lying defeated, much to Sunjin's shock and disbelief. He can't comprehend how Xiao could have taken down so many people so easily, and he wonders if Xiao is even human anymore. Meanwhile, outside the gym, a crowd begins to form as people bang on the doors, demanding to be let in. Shen Yao has arrived at the higher-ups, believing that Xiao may be in danger inside and possibly trapped. Before the door is opened, Xiao comes up with a plan to get out of this situation. He notices Sunjin attempting to flee and decides to give him one final opportunity to save face. Xiao calls out to him, telling him to hold up. Sunjin, completely desperate and broken, falls to his knees and starts slamming his face into the ground, begging for forgiveness in an exaggerated display. Xiao surprisingly agrees to spare him, but only if Sunjin promises to admit his faults to the school administrators and turn over a new leaf. He also makes one final demand. Sunjin must swear to never, ever bother Shen Yao again. When the doors finally open, the higher-ups and Shen Yao are shocked to find Sunjin on his knees looking utterly defeated. Xiao pretends to punch him in the face, making it seem as though Sunjin had gotten into a huge gang fight in the gym while Xiao was merely an innocent bystander who got caught up in a conflict. This clever ruse helps Xiao avoid further suspicion, and he walks away with the situation diffused. After the ordeal, Xiao reflects on what has just transpired. He understands now that he has reached the limits of his current abilities. If he truly wants to protect those he cares about, he needs to become much stronger. With this in mind, Xiao embarks on a new quest, seeking out gems to boost his power. Unfortunately, most of the gems in his city are either already owned by others or too expensive for him to afford. Determined, Xiao decides to venture into the mountains near his home in search of special stones. He purchases treasure hunting equipment to make the search easier, but soon discovers that finding these gems isn't going to be as simple as he thought. Many of the gems are located in places that are either too dangerous or inaccessible for him to reach. His frustration grows when he spots one final gem located 15 meters underground. It seems impossible to retrieve as he can't dig that deep. Just as he's about to give up, the system informs him that the area where the gem is located is hollow. This means he might be able to teleport inside provided there's a gap somewhere. Thinking quickly, Xiao walks over to a body of water nearby. He believes that if there's a gap in the hollow space, water might seep into the cave. Standing on the surface of the water, Xiao uses his microwave radiation ability to locate the opening. Once he identifies the gap, he successfully teleports into the cave where the gem awaits him. However, as he ventures deeper into the cave, he encounters an obstacle. The passageway leading to the gem is completely blocked, preventing him from teleporting any further. At this moment, Xiao feels defeated and frustrated. But just as he's about to give up, a gentle breeze blows through the cave, signaling the presence of another gap. Using the same technique, he locates the opening and teleports to the final destination where the gems are kept. Unfortunately, when he arrives, he finds that the gems are hanging from the ceiling, just out of reach. Determined not to fail, Xiao ties himself to a nearby rock to prevent himself from falling into the water below while he tries to retrieve the gems. Since he can only teleport a limited number of times, this rope method is his best option to safely collect the gems without risking his life. While collecting the gems, disaster strikes. One of the stones slips from his grasp and falls into the water below. Panicking, Xiao uses his microwave radiation to locate where it landed, but instead of finding the gem, he senses something far more dangerous: a massive snake lurking behind him. With his current power level, there's no way Xiao can win against such a creature. As the snake attacks, Xiao tries to defend himself with a shovel, but the snake is relentless, and during the struggle, Xiao backs up and falls over the edge of the cliff. The rope that had been holding him snaps, and Xiao plunges into the water below. The snake wastes no time closing in on him and preparing to strike. In a desperate mood to save himself, Xiao teleports into the queue, narrowly avoiding death. However, since he only managed to collect 11 out of the 12 stones, the system informs him that it's now possible to synthesize 3 gems to create a higher-level gem. The system explains that there are 3 levels of gems: elementary, intermediate, and advanced. Elementary gems offer only a small boost to attributes, but advanced gems can provide a massive increase in power and might even unlock special abilities. Excited by the possibility, Xiao tells the cube to synthesize the gems into advanced level ones. The system agrees but informs him that it will take 100 hours to complete the synthesis. Xiao is devastated by the wait, but the cube suggests that he absorb the remaining 2 gems he collected to level up. This will allow him to gain enough strength to defeat the giant snake when the time comes. After absorbing the 2 gems, Xiao teleports back into the cave. Thanks to his enhanced speed and spiritual attributes, he is now able to defeat the snake with ease. Once the creature is vanquished, Xiao retrieves the final gem, which turns out to be another elementary level stone. He decides to absorb it as well, further increasing his power. Meanwhile, outside the gym, Sunjin and Wan, still reeling from their defeat at Xiao's hands, find themselves bonding over their shared humiliation. They decide to go out drinking and plot their revenge on Xiao, vowing to get back at him for everything he's done. This brings the episode to a close, with Xiao's journey toward greater strength just beginning.
A young warrior named Jinta has sworn to protect a priestess in a secluded mountain village. When demons emerge to threaten the shrine, he is sent into the forest to hunt them down. But what he discovers there alters his fate forever, setting him on a journey that spans space and time. As he traverses centuries of history, Jinta is forced to confront his dark destiny and unravel the truth behind a single haunting question: why does he wield the sword? The anime begins in 1830, with a young girl screaming as she is brutally beaten by her father. She pleads for help from a boy named Genta, who watches in despair, unable to intervene. Her father locks her away in a confined space despite her pleas. Later, Genta checks on his sister, Susan, only to find that she has managed to escape. He rushes to find her and sees her standing by the path, noticing that one of her eyes has turned red. He apologizes for not being able to help, but Susan reassures him, knowing that stepping in would have put him in danger. She asks him to leave her alone, but Genta refuses, insisting that they will escape together. Touched by his determination, Susan agrees, and they flee into the cold forest. As they struggle through the harsh conditions, a stranger approaches and offers his help. At that moment, Genta faints from exhaustion. When he regains consciousness, he finds himself being carried by the stranger, with Susan by his side. They arrive at a village known for its skilled blacksmiths. Susan feels uneasy, commenting on how strange the village seems. The stranger takes them to his home, where his daughter, Shirai, greets them warmly. Seeing the familial bond between the two, Genta and Susan feel a pang of sadness, having never experienced such warmth themselves. The man informs his daughter that the 2 children have no support and that he will make them part of their family. Overjoyed, Shirai introduces herself and asks for their names. When Genta calls her Shirai-chan, she quickly corrects him, saying that since they are now family, there's no need for such formality. Genta is stunned by how quickly things have changed. That night, Genta wakes up to find the man cleaning his sword. Curious, he asks if he is a samurai, but the man clarifies that he is a guard who protects important people. Genta is fascinated by his sword. The next morning, Shirai takes Genta and Susan to a nearby pool. Along the way, Shirai is scolded by her friend Shitsu for eating too much dango and not enough vegetables. Shirai defends her love for dango, saying her mother makes the best ones. Later, as they return home, Genta asks Shirai about her mother, and Shirai explains that her mother, Yukas, granted them permission to stay in the city. She reveals that her mother belonged to the Itsum, a group known for their fire-based abilities, and that she is the only one who inherited this power. Her father serves as her guardian. However, she sadly admits that she has not seen her mother in many years. 3 years pass, and Genta begins training in sword fighting under Shirai's father, though he struggles to make progress. Shirai's father reassures him that he is improving and that his true strength will emerge in time. Before leaving for work, he reminds Shirai to take care of the sword, and they exchange their goodbyes. Shirai checks on Genta, playfully reminding him that as his big sister, she must